So Trump signed an executive order today that bans burning the American flag. At least that's what you heard online, I'm sure. But we're going to break it down with a little bit more nuance. So let's start with the basics. Earlier today, President Trump signed an executive order instructing the Department of Justice to prosecute individuals who burn the American flag, but with a crucial caveat. According to the White House and details shared online, the penalty applies specifically when the act is done with the intent to incite violence or as part of other lawless actions. Okay, so described in the Oval Office saying, you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. Okay. He is part of restoring respect for the nation, adding, I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world by far. So this isn't a blanket ban on burning the flag. What it does is it targets scenarios where it's tied to incitement, like all those rallies we've seen with leftists and the Death to America chants. Think those types of things, right?
In favor of open borders and all of the other things he did to destroy our country. Let's go.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You can do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots.
Here's my take. Trump is a master at reading the room, right? This executive order is perfect on brand marketing for him. He gets to position himself as the defender of America, right? And he forces his opponents, often the Democrats or far left activists, into a super uncomfortable spot where if they protest it, they have to hold rallies burning American flags, right? So worst marketing imaginable for the Democrats. So photo ops possible for the Democrats right now, who are actively trying to, one would assume, shake the label of being the party that supports criminals. And he's basically forcing them in a position where they're going to have to hold massive rallies burning American flags. Okay, so let's take a look at it on X. So basically you have this just in, President Trump. He's signing the executive order instructing the Department of Justice to prosecute people who burn the American flag. He says, I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world by far. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. Super funny. Talk show host Jesse Kelly saying, I would never in a million years harm the American flag. But a president telling me I can't has me as close as I'll ever be to lighting one on fire. I am a free American citizen, and if I ever feel like torching one, I will. This is garbage. Certainly a valid take. I think a lot of conservatives online kind of feel way initially hearing about it, because the thing is, when you first hear the news headline, it just sounds like, oh, Trump's banning the burning of the flag, which I think any conservative would stand up and say, well, we support freedom of speech above all else, perhaps even above the Second Amendment. So, so some users jumped in to clarify. Kristen Mag says, okay, let's get this up. I was opposed to Trump executive order at first, but then I read the full text, right? Reading, it's promoted. It does not criminalize burning the American flag, and it does not infringe on our freedom of speech. It criminalizes flag burning only when it is intended to incite violence or when it's accompanied by other lawless action. And you can see here there's a screenshot of the actual executive order. It talks about how the American flag is a cherished and sacred symbol. They do mention the previous Supreme Court decision. Says, notwithstanding the Supreme Court's rulings on First Amendment protections, the court has never held that American flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite imminent lawless action, or that is an action amounting to fighting words, is constitutionally protected. And they cite some previous case, right? My administration will act to restore respect and sanctity to the American flag and prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating this symbol of our country. So there you have it here. The executive order actually falls under a very narrow scope wherein the American flag is burned in, let's say, the setting of a rally where protesters are calling for death to America, or they're calling for violence in the streets. In those instances, he's essentially saying, no, you can't use our flag for that. You can't use it to incite violence. Cynical is his name, has another really good take on it. He says, everyone is comparing the Trump flag burning executive order with burning a rainbow flag. I guess people were doing that online, saying if you can go to jail for burning a rainbow flag, why can't you go to jail for burning a U.S. flag? He says, that is a weak analogy, and the issue in reality is far more complex. Allow me to explain. If you buy a flag, any flag, gay flag, North Korea, the Dallas Cowboys, Cookie Monster, and you light it on fire in your backyard, that's not a crime, right? However, if you steal a flag, any fit on fire any place, yes, that's a crime. If you vandalize a publicly owned flag, any flag, can be any flag, yes, that's a crime. If you burn a flag in public, any flag, a pride flag, a Dallas Cowboys flag, a U.S. flag, in such a way that the symbolic act of burning serves as fighting words under well-established SCOTUS decisions and incites violence, yes, that is a crime. Of course, what constitutes fighting words is going to be arguable. That's what courts are for. Right? And a little tag at the bottom where he says, importantly, my words above do not address the issue of so-called hate crimes, sentencing enhancements, which in my mind are wrong in every instance. So I think what he's referring to there is basically that in certain scenarios, burning, let's say, a pride flag, even if it doesn't directly result in incitement to violence, could somehow be considered like a hate crime, right? So yeah, here we tweet directly from the White House, God bless America, Trump surrounded by flags, Trump to crack down on flag burning, desecration with executive order. Again, perfect, on brand, defender of America, protecting the American flag itself. The conservative alternative saying, 10 years ago, I would have made a principled argument about freedom of speech and First Amendment rights when it comes to desecrating flags, but that was 10 years ago. We live in a different world now, and honestly, I don't have any problem with this. Our flag is sacred. Maybe not the best, but it speaks to a growing fatigue, I think, amongst not just conservatives, but Americans in general, with just crime, violence, people not following the law, people hating on our own country. You know, it's like it's a team where your own team members hate the team, right? So I think there is a certain level of fatigue in the zeitgeist. People are just kind of over it. And I think that's part of why Trump may be able to get away with this executive order, because I think people are just kind of tired of seeing the sort of disrespect and lawlessness over and over again. You have Margot Martin reporting here. She shares a video of Trump directly saying, if you burn an American flag, you get 1 year in jail.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately.
Let's assume the Supreme Court upholds the executive order as it is lawful. I would say 1 year in jail is probably the appropriate penalty. It's not draconian, not 10 years in jail, right? You don't get life in prison, you're not getting a month in jail, you're getting a year. So it's enough, it's essentially enough to as a forceful deterrent. You know, nobody wants a year in jail for burning a flag. So he's sort of doing the same he does with illegal immigration, right? That he does with protecting the monuments, which is he comes out with these strong statements, threatens these penalties, whether or not they'll ultimately be upheld, right? But just him pushing these penalties, making it sound like it's going to be a bad time for anyone who does burn an American flag, or for anyone who does come across the border, right? You saw when he did that with immigration, it immediately fell even before there were any changes in place, right? Is going to get struck down but it is perfect on brand marketing for Trump. Number one, it allows him to be the defender of America again, which is perfectly on brand for him. And then number two, it forces his opponents to can't burn American flags. Now we're going to go take to the streets and hold Death to America rallies and burn the American flag en masse. So if he can actually bait Democrats into burning the American flag en masse, he will create the worst photo ops in history imaginable for Democrats, right? Meanwhile, he's on the other end with photos of him surrounded by the American flag, defending the American flag. So it just looks like a perfect brand Trump move. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this a good move, defending our American symbols, or is it an assault on the First Amendment and our freedom of speech?